Welcome to the new video of Neurophilos. Get ready to dive into a gripping tale that will leave you breathless, thinking, and inspired. Whether you're here for the mystery, the drama, or the unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Let's begin. The dream that keeps dying. At night, your mind becomes bold. You lie down, the world gets quiet, and suddenly your future feels close enough to touch. You can see it clearly. The bigger life, the respected version of you, the project finally completed, the goals finally achieved. In that moment, it doesn't feel like a fantasy. It feels like a plan. You picture yourself winning in a way that makes today's struggles look temporary. You feel a spark, maybe even excitement, because for a few minutes you genuinely believe this time it will happen. You might imagine launching something that people notice. You might imagine a strong body, a stronger mind, and a stronger name. You might imagine money that removes stress, confidence that doesn't shake easily, and respect that doesn't need begging. You visualize the version of yourself that speaks clearly, walks confidently, and finishes what they start. And for a short time, you are filled with hope. You tell yourself, I'm going to change. I'm going to get serious. I'm going to do it. But then morning arrives. Real life returns. Messages, responsibilities, tiredness, noise, and pressure. The day begins, and the dream gets pushed to the side. You still want it, but it starts to feel far away again. You tell yourself you'll start later, after one more rest, after one more scroll, after one more day. And you don't notice it happening at first because it doesn't come as a big decision. It comes quietly like a slow leak. Days pass, then weeks, and before you realize it, you're standing in the same place again. The same project is unfinished. The same goals are untouched. The same habits are still running your routine like a script you didn't write. The energy you had at night disappears in daylight. The excitement that felt real becomes weak. The plan that felt clear becomes blurry. You keep preparing, but you rarely begin. You keep thinking, but you rarely move. And then something painful happens. You start using distractions to cover the emptiness. Cheap entertainment, endless videos, random tasks that feel productive but change nothing. Small comforts that make the day easier but make the future smaller. You tell yourself you're resting, but deep down you know you're escaping. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right mood, but deep down you know you're avoiding discomfort. You don't want to admit it because it feels like failure. So you explain it in polite words. You say, I'm busy, I'm tired, I don't have time. Something came up. Eventually, the dream that once inspired you becomes a source of frustration. It still shows up in your mind, but now it carries a bitter feeling. You don't feel motivated when you think of it. You feel guilty. Because you remember how many times you promised yourself you would change. You remember how many times you started and stopped. You remember how many times you felt a burst of confidence, only to fall back into the same cycle. That's when the cruel thoughts arrive. They come quietly, but they hit hard. Maybe I'm not disciplined enough. Maybe I don't deserve it. Maybe I'm just not built for success. You look at people who achieve things, and you wonder what they have that you don't. You assume they are stronger, more focused, more consistent. You start to believe that your problem is a lack of willpower, a lack of motivation, a lack of discipline. And this is the trap of chapter 1. You blame your surface behavior while the deeper problem stays hidden. Because it's true. You do stop. You do delay. You do abandon things. But what if those are only the symptoms? What if the real reason your dream keeps dying is not because you are lazy or weak, but because something inside you pulls the brakes every time you get close to real change? You don't just lose time, you lose belief. Each time you abandon a goal, you teach yourself a lesson. I can't trust me. And that lesson is heavy. It makes the next start harder because now your mind remembers the past. It remembers the unfinished projects and the broken promises. It remembers the excitement that didn't turn into results. Over time, you don't just fear failure, you fear yourself. So chapter 1 ends with a question that changes everything. What if the problem isn't only discipline? What if it's deeper than that? What if there is an invisible force inside you that keeps repeating the cycle, and you can't defeat it until you can finally see it? The invisible enemy inside you. When a dream keeps failing in the same way, the problem is rarely on the surface. Discipline, motivation, focus, and planning are easy explanations, but they don't explain the pattern. If you truly lack discipline, you wouldn't dream so vividly. If you lacked intelligence, you wouldn't understand exactly what needs to be done. And if you lack desire, the dream wouldn't keep returning to you at night. Something else is at work, something quieter, deeper, and far more influential than willpower. There is a part of you that actively resists change, not because it wants you to fail, but because it believes failure is safer than success. This is difficult to accept, because we like to think of ourselves as a single, united mind. But the truth is, your psyche is divided. One part wants growth, expansion, and achievement. Another part wants safety, familiarity, and control. And when these two collide, the part that controls survival usually wins. Carl Jung called this hidden force the shadow. The shadow is not a monster, and it is not evil. It is the unconscious side of your personality that formed to protect you from pain. Its job is not to help you succeed, it is to help you survive. And survival, to the unconscious mind, often means staying exactly where you are. Jung warned that as long as the unconscious remains unconscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. You will say, things just never work out for me, or something always gets in the way, or maybe it's just not meant to be. But this is not fate. It is self-sabotage, subtle, intelligent, and deeply rooted in your past. You don't fail because you are weak. You fail because, at some unconscious level, you are afraid of what success would demand from you. Success means visibility. It means being seen, evaluated, and judged. It means stepping out of the background and into a position where mistakes are exposed. It means risking rejection, criticism, and isolation. And if, at any point in your life, being visible led to pain, your shadow remembers. There is also a deeper fear that few people admit, the fear of winning. Because winning changes you. It separates you from who you were and from the people who knew you as that person. It challenges your identity. It forces responsibility. It removes excuses. If you succeed, you can no longer hide behind potential. You must live with results. And the shadow asks a terrifying question. What if I win and still feel empty? What if I win and lose connection? What if I win and can't go back? So the shadow interferes before that risk appears. It whispers hesitation. It creates fatigue. It pulls your attention toward distractions. It convinces you to delay, to overthink, to wait for the right time. And when you eventually stop, it gives you a rational explanation so you don't see what really happened. You say it wasn't the right moment. You say circumstances were unfair. You say you'll try again later. The shadow stays hidden, doing its job perfectly. This is why the inner conflict feels confusing. Consciously, you want to move forward. You set goals. You make plans. You feel inspired. But unconsciously, another part of you is pressing the brakes. And because you don't see this inner war, you blame yourself instead. You call yourself lazy, undisciplined, inconsistent. You punish your conscious mind for a battle it doesn't even know it's fighting. Jung believed that real change begins the moment you recognize this conflict, not to judge it and not to destroy it, but to acknowledge it. Because you cannot win a war against an enemy you cannot see. And right now, that enemy doesn't look like fear or resistance. It looks like you, your habits, your delays, your patterns. Chapter 2 ends with a shift in perspective. Maybe you are not broken. Maybe you are protected, overprotected by an outdated survival system that no longer understands your present life. And once you realize that, the question changes. It is no longer, what is wrong with me? It becomes, what is this part of me so afraid of, and why? The shadow beneath the surface. Most people believe they know who they are. They can describe their personality, their values, their strengths, and even their weaknesses. They know how they act in public, how they present themselves, and how they want to be seen. This familiar identity feels solid, controlled, and intentional. It feels like me. But according to Carl Jung, this version of you is only the surface. It is the visible tip of a much larger structure hidden underneath. What you call I is not the whole of you. It is the part you learn to manage, approve of, and show to the world. Beneath it lies a vast unconscious territory filled with everything that did not fit, everything that was rejected, and everything that once felt unsafe to express. Jung called this hidden territory the shadow. The shadow is not made only of dark or negative traits. It contains anger, envy, selfish impulses, fear, shame, and unresolved pain. But it also holds ambition, confidence, authority, creativity, leadership, and raw potential. The shadow is simply everything you learned you were not allowed to be. Anything that threatened your acceptance, safety, or belonging was pushed out of awareness and stored there. This process begins early in life. As a child, you depended on others for survival and emotional security. You learned very quickly which behaviors were rewarded and which were punished. If anger caused rejection, you learned to suppress it. If wanting attention led to criticism, you learned to shrink. If ambition was called selfish, you learned to feel guilty for wanting more. You didn't make these choices consciously. Your nervous system made them for you. Nothing was wrong with you. You adapted. Over time, these rejected qualities didn't disappear. They were simply hidden. And what is hidden does not stay quiet. The shadow operates in the background, shaping your choices, reactions, and behaviors without asking for permission. The more you ignore it, the more power it gains. The more you pretend it doesn't exist, the more it influences your life from behind the scenes. This is why self-sabotage feels mysterious. You may consciously want success, growth, and freedom, but unconsciously you associate those things with danger. The shadow remembers a different time, a different environment, a different set of rules. It doesn't care that you are older now. It doesn't care that circumstances have changed. It acts based on past conditioning, not present reality. So when you try to move forward, the shadow interferes quietly. It drains your energy. It creates doubt. It pushes you toward distractions. It convinces you to stay small. And because you don't recognize its influence, you think the problem is external. You blame time, people, luck, or motivation. Meanwhile, the real cause stays hidden. The shadow is not evil. This is important. It is protective, but blind. It uses outdated strategies to protect you from dangers that may no longer exist. It still believes that visibility equals punishment, that ambition equals rejection, that standing out equals isolation. So it keeps you safe by keeping you stuck. This is why you can dream big, but live small. The conscious mind imagines expansion, while the shadow pulls you back toward familiarity. And as long as the shadow remains unconscious, it will always be stronger than your willpower. You can force yourself for a while, but eventually the deeper system wins. Many people try to fix this with surface-level tools. They set goals. They watch motivational videos. They repeat affirmations. They build routines and planners. These can help, but only temporarily. Because if a part of you associates success with risk, you will eventually sabotage your own efforts. And when you do, you will rationalize it. You will say it wasn't the right time. You will say something unexpected came up. You will convince yourself that stopping was reasonable. But the truth is simpler and harder to accept. The enemy was never outside you. It was never a lack of discipline or opportunity. It was a hidden part of you trying to protect you in the only way it knows how. Chapter 3 ends with a realization that changes the direction of the journey. You don't overcome the shadow by fighting it. You overcome it by seeing it. Because the moment you recognize its existence, it loses its invisibility. And once it is seen, it can no longer run your life from the dark. The patterns of self-sabotage. If you look back honestly at your life, you will notice something unsettling. Your failures are rarely random. They follow patterns. You tend to stop at similar points. You hesitate in familiar ways. You abandon projects at moments that feel strangely predictable. This is not coincidence. According to Carl Jung, the shadow does not act chaotically. It follows a script, one written long before you were aware of it. You may remember moments when you were close to finishing something important, close to being seen, close to changing your life. You understood what needed to be done. You had the ability, you had the opportunity, and yet something inside you pulled back. You delayed, you forgot, you lost momentum. Later you explained it calmly. It wasn't meant to be. I wasn't ready. The timing was wrong. But deep down, a quiet voice knows this wasn't the first time. The shadow protects you by repeating what once kept you safe. It does this through recognizable mechanisms. And the closer you get to growth, the more intense these mechanisms become. Jung believed that awareness begins when you can name these patterns without judgment. One of the most common patterns is fear of visibility. You may want recognition, success, or influence, but the moment attention appears, your energy drops. You avoid posting, presenting, speaking, or launching. You disappear just as momentum builds. The shadow equates being seen with danger. Perhaps in your past, visibility meant criticism, ridicule, or emotional harm. So your psyche learned a simple rule: stay hidden to survive. Another powerful pattern is guilt about outgrowing others. If you grew up in an environment where success was rare or viewed with suspicion, achievement can feel like betrayal. Part of you believes that winning means leaving others behind. To stay loyal, you unconsciously limit yourself. You sabotage opportunities not because you don't want them, but because your shadow fears separation. Staying small feels like staying connected. A third pattern is attachment to unrealized potential. Some people build their identity around being promising. They are the smart one, the talented one, the misunderstood one. As long as the dream remains unfinished, it stays perfect. Once you act, reality introduces limits, mistakes, and criticism. The shadow prefers the fantasy of greatness over the vulnerability of real effort, so it keeps you dreaming instead of doing. Then there is fear of discovering your limits. As long as you don't fully try, you can believe you would succeed if you wanted to. Trying seriously risks a painful truth. Maybe you're not exceptional, or worse, maybe you are simply human. The shadow protects your self-image by preventing you from testing it. It would rather preserve the illusion than face uncertainty. These patterns are not flaws in your character. They are survival strategies. At some point in your life, your nervous system learned that growth, attention, or ambition led to pain, and it adapted. The tragedy is that these adaptations remain active long after the danger has passed. This leads to an important question. Where did these patterns come from? When did your mind learn that success was unsafe? When did standing out become a threat? When did ambition become something to hide? Jung believed that the shadow forms in childhood, when you lack the power to question your environment. If crying led to rejection, you suppressed emotion. If confidence brought punishment, you learned humility as self-defense. If expressing yourself caused withdrawal of love, you learned silence. The child does not ask if the rule is fair. The child obeys to survive. So when you procrastinate today, you are not being lazy. You are following an old rule. When you retreat today, you are not weak. You are reenacting a strategy that once worked. Understanding this doesn't excuse sabotage, but it removes shame. Chapter 4 ends with awareness. Once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. You begin to recognize the moment sabotage starts, not after it's over. And that awareness creates a pause. In that pause lies the possibility of change, because the shadow loses power the moment it is recognized as an outdated protector rather than a hidden enemy. Integration, turning the shadow into an ally. You can spend your entire life running from something that lives inside you, or you can turn and face it. Carl Jung believed that real transformation does not come from eliminating the shadow, but from integrating it. The shadow exists for a reason. It formed to protect you when you were vulnerable. The problem is not that it exists. The problem is that it still operates without your awareness. Once you recognize your patterns and trace their origins, you reach the most difficult stage of the journey: direct contact with the shadow. This is not an intellectual exercise. Thinking about your shadow changes little. Integration begins when you listen to it. Jung described a practice called active imagination, a way of consciously engaging the unconscious. You create a quiet inner space and allow the shadow to take form. It may appear as a person, a distorted version of yourself, a frightening figure, or something unexpected. The form doesn't matter. What matters is the relationship you build with it. When the shadow appears, the instinct is to resist or judge it. But integration requires the opposite. You look at it and ask simple, honest questions. Why are you stopping me? What are you afraid will happen if I succeed? What are you trying to protect me from? And then you listen, not to argue, not to correct, just to hear. What often emerges is not cruelty, but fear. The shadow may remind you of moments when being visible led to punishment, when trying led to humiliation, when wanting more led to loss. It may say, I kept you small so you wouldn't get hurt again. In that moment, something shifts. You realize you were never fighting an enemy. You were fighting a wounded guardian. This realization changes your role. You stop being a victim of unconscious forces and become a mediator within your own psyche. You step into the position of the adult self, the part of you that can assess risk, set boundaries, and provide safety. You can thank the shadow for its protection and tell it the truth. I am no longer that child. I have resources now. I can survive being seen. Integration also means reclaiming what you buried. The shadow does not only store pain, it stores power. Many of the qualities you need to succeed, assertiveness, ambition, authority, confidence, creative intensity, were once labeled as dangerous or unacceptable. When these traits are rejected, they do not disappear. They return as sabotage, emotional outbursts, or paralysis. So you begin a new process, conscious reclamation. You examine the qualities you judge in others but secretly admire. You notice what triggers you about successful people. Often, those triggers point directly to abilities you denied in yourself. You then reframe them. What you once called selfishness becomes self-respect. What you called arrogance becomes self-trust. What you called coldness becomes emotional regulation. The quality stays the same. The meaning changes. Integration is not about becoming aggressive, ruthless, or dominant. It is about responsible ownership. You learn to be firm without cruelty, visible without arrogance, ambitious without exploitation. The energy that once blocked your progress becomes fuel for it. To stabilize this process, Jung recommended symbolic commitment. One powerful method is making a conscious pact with the shadow. You write a simple agreement acknowledging what the shadow fears, thanking it for its protection, and declaring your intention to move forward. You also promise self-care, boundaries, and preparation, so the nervous system feels safe. This is not superstition, it is psychological clarity. You return to this pact when sabotage resurfaces, not as punishment, but as reassurance. You remind the shadow that you are listening and that you are in charge now. Chapter 5 ends with a quiet truth. Wholeness is not perfection, it is integration. You stop trying to be only light, only good, only safe. You become complete. And when the shadow is no longer forced to fight you from the dark, it no longer needs to sabotage your life. It stands beside you, still cautious but finally aligned with your direction forward.